Dallas Mavericks officials and select staffers, past and present, packed the team's plane along with members of Dirk Nowitzki's inner circle. The flight was bound for Springfield, Massachusetts in August 2023 to celebrate the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame induction of the most legendary figure in basketball history. Mavs general manager Nico Harrison made the trip. He wasn't especially close to Nowitzki, but their relationship dated more than 2 decades to when Harrison began his career at Nike as an NBA regional field representative based in Dallas. Casey Smith, Dallas's director of health and performance, was also part of the team's traveling party for the weekend. Nowitzki often credited Smith, who arrived in Dallas as the Mavs' head athletic trainer in 2004. All right, so 2004, that's 20 years ago. And when did Dirk get to Dallas? It's like the late 90s, right? Yeah, so Dirk's 6th season up until retirement. So that's still a long relationship. Okay, pretty long relationship right there. Casey Smith, the Dallas director of health and performance, was promoted to the executive ranks 15 years later for helping him extend his career to 21 seasons. Nowitzki trusted Smith implicitly, considering him one of his best friends. Others who joined them for Hall of Fame festivities, which featured a pair of extravagant private parties organized by Dirk's longtime special projects manager, Laura Beth Seeger, in addition to the Hall of Fame functions, don't recall seeing anything seeming amiss that weekend in Springfield, when Harrison and Smith were each accompanied by their wives. What happened next began a series of behind-the-scenes decisions that have had massive ramifications for the Mavericks during this shocking, drastically disappointing, injury-riddled season in Dallas. Interviews of more than a dozen team and league insiders reveal that while the Luka Donćić era officially ended on February 2nd, it truly began to disintegrate, along with the franchise's culture 18 months earlier. The summer before the generational talent led the Mavericks to the NBA Finals. A few days after returning to Dallas's Love Field for the Hall of Fame event, when the franchise that had endured a frustrating losing season was on a high from honoring Nowitzki, Harrison informed Smith that they needed to meet. That's not good, y'all. That's not good, bro. Whenever someone says you need to meet, bro, you about to be. Take it from me. Take it from me, man. When you get that random meeting out of nowhere, nothing good. Nothing good's gonna happen in that meeting, especially if that meeting's like immediate. Smith replied that it wasn't possible to meet in person. He had gone to his hometown in Ohio to be at the side of his gravely ill mother in the final weeks of her life. Harrison set up a video conference meeting instead. Bro, I just want to say right now, it could have waited. It could have waited, dude. You didn't have to do it then. This wasn't there's no way that this was an immediate thing. Imagine you getting fired when you start. Dude, that's brutal. I mean, the thing about layoffs is that when you get laid off, the company doesn't care. The company's already made the decision that they're gonna lay you off, and so every day that you're still working, they just see it as like an extra number, whatnot. Smith was then informed that his services in Dallas were no longer needed, ending a nearly 2-decade tenure with the franchise. The reason for this dismissal centered on Smith being too negative, according to sources briefed on the discussion, who interpreted the vague reasoning to mean Smith wasn't enough of a yes man. Bro, so the thing here is that we are looking at sources within the Mavericks are talking about Nico Harrison, bro. This is like in Game of Thrones where when Joffrey was the king and like people were still like working in the castle, but like if you catch them whispering, they know stuff's not going too well right now. That's what I'm getting from this. It's not a good enough reason to fire someone, in my opinion. Too negative. Like I need examples. I would ask for examples, bro. Wait, he called the person while he was home with his terminally ill mom? Yes, bro. And the fact that you have sources in the organization talking about this, saying that he's not enough of a yes man, means that there are some people still within the area of all this being like, this man, I don't know if this man knows what he's doing, right? He was 100% threatened by him, a team source told ESPN, referring to Harrison's concern that Smith's voice carried too much weight with the franchise. He's going to show that I'm in charge and nobody else could question that. This is not how you run a basketball team. Like, this is just not how you do it. There's no... Oh, boy. Now, again, I don't know a lot. I don't know much about. Like front office wheelings and dealings, but this is crazy. Like just because he's too close to Dirk, you know what I'm saying? It was a stunning first step in Harrison's overhaul of the team's health and performance group over the past 2 off seasons. Smith's unceremonious departure was followed by the dismissals of athletic performance director Jeremy Hallsopple and manual therapist Casey Spanglers, only days removed from Dallas's appearance in the NBA Finals. So even after they made the NBA Finals, he still was like, yo, the people that got our athletes to perform the way that they did got him out of there. That's so weird. Sources told ESPN that the frigid dynamic between Donćić's camp, led by agent Bill Duffy and Seager. Who's a Seager? So Seager's also Luka's business manager after being introduced to him by Dirk. So now Dirk and Luka are connected by like employees that work with them. Okay. And Harrison and his new staff factored into the GM's stunning decision to trade Donćić to the Lakers for Anthony Davis in February. Smith, Hallsopple, I hope I'm saying that right. Hallsopple, and Spangler were all longtime Mavs employees who helped Donćić, a Slovenian who spent his adolescence in Spain, make the major cultural transition after coming to Dallas as a teenager. They had become confidants for the superstar, but sources said Harrison saw them as enablers of Donćić. I would want to enable my max player. Dude, I'm telling you right now, if Cade Cunningham was from another country, came to Detroit, was as good as he was, and there are like 3 dudes in the organization that really helped him fit into Detroit and be his best friend and make the transition smooth, I'm keeping them around as long as possible. Unless they're actively being destructive to the organization, I'm keeping them around for as long as I can. I just don't... Despite them being immensely respected by their peers throughout the league, Hallsopple was the NBA Strength and Conditioning Coach of the Year in 2021, and Smith's tenure as a Team USA's head athletic trainer included the 2008 and 2012 Olympic gold medal runs. So Nico Harrison not only replaced friends of Luka, he replaced friends of Luka that were good at their job. I don't know, man. I don't know how Mavericks fans can do it, bro. They're good at you fired an Olympic head athletic trainer because they were cool with Luka. Bro, you need to fire him today. We feel the guys that replaced them have done an amazing job. And again, you're coming at me from a negative standpoint, and I look at it from a positive standpoint. The guys that we brought in are better. Better than the Olympics, bro? Better than the Olympics, guys. Dysfunction between Harrison's new hires, Director of Player Health and Performance, Johan Billsborough, and Athletic Performance Director Keith Belton have been problematic as the Mavs' medical misfortune mounted throughout the season, sources said. So the 2 new hires don't even rock with each other. I feel like Luka Donćić trade aside, this alone also should be like, dude, what? Sources said the Mavericks have not employed a full-time manual therapist this season. Okay. So, who is the manual therapist? Casey Spangler? Okay, so he fired 3 people and only hired 2. He didn't even replace the manual therapist. And the thing is I feel like we all would have let this go. This all would have been let go if he doesn't trade Luka. I feel like we don't know about this. We, as the general public, don't know about this. Is Nico a scapegoat? I think 2 things can be true. I think that the ownership put their trust in Nico, and Nico is a moron. The ownership is backing and put their trust in someone that isn't good at their job. I feel like that's probably what's happening. For a stretch late in the season, the Mavericks sweated out fielding an active roster with the league minimum 8 available players as Dallas dipped below 500 before finishing 39-43 to claim the Western Conference's last play-in bid. Harrison's decision to fire Smith the way he did it also drove Dirk away from the franchise. Harrison's decision to fire Smith in the way he did it also drove Nowitzki away from the franchise that he proudly played for his entire career. Sources said Nowitzki, who describes himself as a Mavs fan now, Ooh, in quotes, it's nasty work. Not only did you fire the people that liked Luka, you also drove away probably your best evaluator of talent in the organization that's not like a scout. Nowitzki had served as a senior advisor to Mark Cuban, frequently attending practices and providing input when he was in Dallas. Like, the thing is that Mark Cuban, you know, he was an owner, but he was just like, okay. He would run things by Dirk. He was like, yo, you're a Hall of Famer. What do you think? That's what an owner should do. I would definitely go to my like top player of all time and be like, hey, this sound like a good idea? No? Okay. That's what I would do if I was an owner. Sources told ESPN that Smith's ouster also prompted the departure of Mavs Vice President of Basketball Communications, Scott Tomlin, another 2-decade employee of the franchise, who was close with Smith, Dirk, and Donćić, among others. Tomlin accepted an offer to become the executive director of the, I guess DN is Dirk Nowitzki Companies and the Dirk Nowitzki Foundation. So now he sees all the firings. Some guy like Scott Tomlin, I guess, sees the writing on the wall and goes, yeah, I'm out too, brother. So now, not only are you getting rid of people, the people that you're, it's like, yeah, you don't gotta fire me. I'm just gonna work for Dirk. That's real, bro. That's real as hell, bro. That's real as hell, bro. I gotta, just be like, you not fire me. You not fire me, dog. I'm leaving. My obligation is to the Dallas Mavericks, Harrison said Tuesday. It's what's in the best interest of the Mavericks, and that's the most important thing. Is it? I have not heard a single person back him up, by the way. Maybe I'm missing an interview from the owners. I haven't seen it. Again, some of these decisions are going to be unpopular, maybe to Dirk and maybe to the fans, but my obligation is to the Dallas Mavericks. The thing that Nico got wrong here is that your obligation to the team does not mean straining the relationship between past players. How the Lakers treated Jerry West, even if you see it as like what's in best for the Lakers, you can still go about it a different way. If I'm not incorrect here, I think that Jerry West died and his relationship with the Lakers was not like squashed. Like his relationship with the Lakers was still like his season tickets were taken away. That's a bad look, you know? That's like a crazy look. Whenever a franchise treats a former player awful, it's never gonna look good. It's never gonna go well. You're never gonna look like the good guys in that situation. That's just the reality of it. Nowitzki and Tomlin have attended 2 games since the beginning of February. Donćić's Lakers debut in Los Angeles on February 10th and his return to Dallas on April 9th. The fact that they won't even go to the games right now. Dirk and Tomlin will not even go to games unless Luka is playing. This is an extremely awful relationship to have with the best player in your franchise's history. This is an awful look. Over the past year, you could already see the team heading in a different direction. Nowitzki, who declined an interview request from ESPN. Damn, Nowitzki does not even want to talk to ESPN. Oh my goodness, bro. And the thing, do you know how messed up you gotta be to piss off Dirk? Think about that. You know how in the wrong you gotta be to piss off Dirk, bro? Dirk is the most loved, one of the most loved NBA players of all time. You know how in the wrong you gotta be? Oh my goodness. Derek Lively, a 21-year-old center who projects as a long-term cornerstone, he was drafted for Luka. The whole point of Derek Lively was so that Luka could benefit from having a lob threat at the rim. That's the whole point. That's the thing. That's also an infuriating thing about this, is that a lot of these decisions that the Mavericks made up until there, and a lot of decisions that Mavericks players made, was all for Luka, dude. Was listed as questionable on January 20th because of a right ankle sprain after sitting out to the previous 2 games. Under Belton's supervision, Lively went through an intense return to play workout before sitting again that night. The plan was for Lively to play at home 2 nights later against Minnesota Timberwolves, but Billsborough had concerns, prompting him to send Lively for a CT scan. It revealed a stress fracture in his right ankle that sidelined the center for the next 2.5 months. So not only do the 2 people that Nico Harrison hired to replace those people not see eye to eye, they almost ruined Derek Lively's career. Okay. Because playing again 2 nights later and then figuring out that he should be sidelined for the next 2.5 months, and then someone said somebody should be fired for that. That's coming from a team source. So again, keep in mind, Nico Harrison fired a dude with 2 decades of experience and another dude that was a trainer for multiple Olympic teams, and then replaced him for a dude that can't even gauge what the timetable to return. It was a symptom of a much larger problem, multiple team sources said. Harrison, though, portrayed the handling of Lively's injury as proof that his medical staff is elite, as he said on oh my goodness, bro. Sources said that Lively's camp was pleased with Billsborough's communication and collaboration during their recovery and rehab process. This man really tries to spin this, man. He really tries to spin this stuff. It actually goes to show the strength of our medical team because he was cleared to play. But his signs and symptoms where our medical team knew it was something more. Because he was cleared to play by your medical team. Wait, what is Belton? What's Belton's job? Athletic performance director. That might not be... Is that the medical team? Like, does that fall under a medical team, or is that a different department? Because this is so that's why when you went and tested again and saw the CT scan, which they actually avoided potential catastrophic injury. So you will take the angle of being negative, but it's actually a positive thing. Oh my goodness, bro. They almost derailed your 21-year-old lottery pick. According to more than 10 team sources, the situation led to a loud, heated confrontation between Billsborough and Belton that began in the training room of the practice facility. Harrison did not reply to a question about the incident or several others regarding the health and performance group. ESPN submitted to the Mavs media relations department this week. The Mavs declined to make Billsborough or Belton available for comment. Oh my God. Nope, not punches, but they were going at it. That was coming for a long time. So not only did Nico Harrison replace 3 esteemed medical professionals, he replaced them with 2 people that do not like each other and do not agree with each other. And sources in your camp are being like, hey man, that was gonna happen, bro. This is brutal stuff. The Mavericks have been the second unhealthiest team in terms of injuries in the NBA this season. The friction had been simmering for months. Harrison had created the uncomfortable dynamic by agreeing to hire Belton before Billsborough, even before Billsborough was in charge of the department. Yo, hiring someone before hiring their boss? I've seen it happen before, but that's crazy. I'm sorry. Billsborough does not respect Belton's acumen, sources say. Is this article saying that even the Mavs injuries are partially to blame on Nico? We're getting there. He's a glorified cheerleader. According to the National Strength Coaches Association database, Belton does not have either of the certifications from the association that are required for NBA strength coaches as per Article 22 of the Collective Bargaining Agreement. The CBA states that an individual hired as a head strength and conditioning coach must have at least 3 years of experience since receiving those certifications. Nico Harrison got rid of someone that worked in the office for 20 years and someone that worked on 2 Olympic teams to replace them with 2 dudes that don't like each other, don't rock with each other, and one guy isn't qualified. And he was still allowed to trade Luka away. This is actually, oh my goodness. This should be this is a... So now I can probably definitively say that these Mavericks injuries, yeah, they're not all Nico's fault. It's not 100% Nico's fault, but Nico did not in any way, shape, or form help. Anyway, an NBA spokesperson said the league office was aware that Belton lacked the required certifications, but the league office accepted his certification from the College Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association on a temporary basis, with the exception that he would receive his NSCA certifications immediately after this season. Belton's UCLA biography noted that he was a winner of the prestigious Stuckey Award, given to individuals who excelled during the practical section of this exam. Okay, he's got a player option to get out this year. I don't know if Kyrie stays, dude. Would you stay? If I'm a free agent right now, or if I'm signed to Dallas right now, I don't want to be there. I wouldn't want to be there. This is weird. I'm an NBA player and my medical staff can't even get on the same page. I'm out, bro. Some of Belton's critics describe him as more of a personal trainer than the body engineer that is standard for the modern NBA strength coaches. Johan, Billsborough is a little bit handcuffed in his department. Belton is in a pivoted role that trains players but keeps the department in line to a philosophy and everyone working the same way. Belton is none of those things. And then on top of it, the two of them have been beefing since day one, which led to the big blow up. He has shown no respect to Johan the entire year. No collaboration whatsoever. He either ranges from completely standoffish to doing the dumbest shit possible with a player just to prove a point to Johan. It's terrible, and you can't do it that way. You can't do what he's done and not put a player more at risk by doing that. Not collaborating with your boss should get you fired. You know, that should get you fired, bro. What are you? Belton, a former NFL fullback, had no previous NBA experience before the season. Dude, this just keeps getting worse and worse. This just keeps getting worse and worse somehow. He also had previous NBA experience, serving as the Boston Celtics Director of Sports Science from 2017 to 2020. Okay, but not a practitioner and someone who tends to be divisive when he disagrees with somebody. Oh no, I mean, we know that now. We know that. We figured that we know that now. Billsborough and Art Horn, the Celtics head athletic trainer and director of performance at the time, disagreed often. They had no previous health relationship, but were hired in the same offseason to be co-heads of Boston's health and performance group. That was a problem, the Celtics source said. There was a Cold War. There were Art Horn people and they were Johan people. All right, this guy is divisive as well. Billsborough left the Celtics after 3 seasons. Horn remains in Boston, having been promoted to Director of Organizational Growth and Team Development in 2022. Billsborough struggled to establish rapport with Donćić and the 5-time first-team All-NBA selection's body team. So, Harrison had already alienated Donćić by running off the people he trusted and respected. Billsborough, who already had big shoes to fill in replacing Smith, never earned Dončić's trust or respect, according to sources. It's not a coincidence that Jalen Brunson's New York Knicks hired Smith as their vice president of sports medicine as soon as his Mavs contract expired last year. So the guy that they fired got hired by the Knicks because Jalen Brunson was like, you guys are idiots. Get my guy back. New York also hired former Mavs athletic trainer Heather Mao. Apologize if I'm saying that wrong. The games lost to injury for the Knicks have dropped significantly from last season, and Smith and Mao recently oversaw Brunson's recovery from a gruesome ankle sprain. But Jalen Brunson trusts these guys enough that he was like, you guys are firing? That's crazy. He was like, Knicks, hire them. Weeks after leaving the Mavs in free agency in 2022, Brunson discussed how much he would miss the Caseys, Hall Supple, and Mao during an appearance on the Old Man and the 3 podcast hosted by JJ. Redick mentioned that he was still in an active group chat with these then Dallas staffers despite spending only 2 months with the Mavericks at the end of his playing career a year earlier. Redick wasn't even there for that long and he was still in a group chat. I think everybody liked these guys, bro. I think everybody liked these guys, man. This is bad. This is pretty bad, bro. Like, what? Gee, oof. This is a bad look, bro. Everybody liked them to the point where even when they left, other players at other companies are like, yeah, we need them on the squad right now. Not a lot of people understand how much a difference those people make in your everyday life, Brunson said. I never take it for granted. They're really special. And the fact that they're so personable and you can talk to them about anything, that makes it even harder to leave the Mavs. It's not just work. They know how to be people. Keep in mind, this is the franchise that lowballed Brunson and sent him to New York. Maverick sources, as well as agents and associates of multiple players currently on the Dallas roster, are split on Billsborough. Some described him as an evidence-based and competent. Others are critical. Those complaints about him that he doesn't establish relationships with players or staff, doesn't travel with the team often early in the season, and occasionally has optimistic timetables for a return from injury. If you're not around the team all the time, you shouldn't be involved in decision-making, a team source said. Valid. Added another team source who otherwise praised Billsborough. That is definitely a challenge. You can't be perceived as the guy that hovers around. You got to be able to get in, and obviously that's Casey's magic. So this guy is not even there. The qualified guy is not even there. Okay. Harrison defended the Mavericks health and performance group, pointing out that the vast majorities of injuries sustained by Dallas players this season have been unavoidable and caused by contact. It's a fucking contact sport, Nico. It's a contact sport, bro. This doesn't sound unavoidable. I'm gonna be so for real. The medical staff that you have made doesn't seem unavoidable in the slightest. It's hard to say what a guy should have for a contact injury, but how fast they come back or how likely they are to re-injure it, that's another story, a team source said. How do you get me back? How well am I when I get back? That's the medical staff and the performance staff. Added another team source. I think that is where you really see the effect of the dysfunction, but not just within the medical department, but the pressure to tread water until other guys come back so that you can prove what decisions the front office made up until this point were the right ones. I think there's a dysfunction on an organizational level because of the trade itself. He can't stay here, bro. He can't stay here, man. He can't stay here, dude. The most notable and costly example is the left adductor strain sustained by Davis during his Dallas debut on February 8th, when he returned from an abdominal strain that he sustained January 28th, the days before the trade. With Harrison under fire, Davis is motivated to make a strong first impression of the outraged Mavs fan base in the first home game after the shocking blockbuster deal. He acknowledged that he should have waited another game or two to return, but Davis said it was his decision made in consultation with his personal medical team and Billsboro. They meet and communicate every day, said Davis, who works with his own staff in the weight room instead of Belton. He works with his own staff. He does not even work with Belton. Davis consulted with his personal medical team in Billsboro, and he does not work out with Belton. So the guy that you traded for doesn't even work out with the medical team guy because he has his own team. Gotcha. All right. They meet and communicate every day, okay. That description doesn't apply to the dynamic between Billsboro and Belton, according to multiple sources who say their discord has become a detriment to the team. With all of the great organizations, the performance and medical staff are seamless, a team source said. And here they are just completely separate and at odds. It's pretty clear to see the effect of the divide. The division created an unfortunate environment that ultimately the players have to suffer from. Months before Smith's exit, Donćić and Seager had hired Real Madrid physiotherapist Javier Barrio Calvo and Slovenian national team strength coach Anze Masek, both of whom Donćić knew well, to work for him after his nagging quadriceps injury contributed to the Mavericks limping into the 2023 draft lottery. Okay. It followed a trend of NBA superstars, including Davis and Mavs guard Kyrie Irving, employing their own health and performance staff to work in consultation with their team's department. So all of these guys, all the big guys are just like, I'm just gonna hire my own team. Which, you know, like we've seen people that have their own team, right? But the three of them just being like, it's not the best look, you know? Donćić and Seager had envisioned his staff working seamlessly with Smith, who made annual summer visits to Slovenia and often attended Dončić's national team games around the globe. With Smith having been dismissed for the final year of his contract, Paul Soppel was the Mavs point man in the union with Dončić's body team. Dončić's camp considered the first season of the arrangement a great success. He averaged a league-leading 33.9, 9 rebounds, 9 assists during the regular season, and became the first player in NBA history to lead the league in points, rebounds, assists, and steals during a postseason. And became the first player in NBA history to lead the league in points, rebounds, assists, and steals during a postseason. He also led the league in total minutes. You don't perform like that if you're a fat, drunk pig, a friend of Dončić's grumbled, feeling as if that's how the Mavs portrayed the superstar in the aftermath of the trade. He's right, bro. Even if he was, he dropped 39, 9, and 9 for an entire season. Like, what else do you want from this man? Like, what else do you want? Oh my goodness. Like, what else? Despite the historic production, Harrison was concerned Donćić had still gained weight during the season while carrying a heavier. You know who else did that, chat? You know who else used to, like, come in the season, like, overweight, like, a little bit higher weight, and then, like, play into shape during the season? You know who else used to do that? Shaq. It worked out for them. And Phil Jackson was like, dude, yeah, we get you. Shaq did that. And Phil Jackson was like, yeah, I actually want it this way because I don't want you to be tired out during the postseason. The tension thickened between the GM and increasingly alienated the face of the franchise in his camp. Billsboro stepped into a difficult situation and didn't endear himself to Dončić's camp. Sources say Cuban, who had made Dončić's happiness his top priority since Dallas acquired the draft rights to the prodigy in 2018, and worked closely with Seager for years before that, volunteered to serve as an intermediary. Dude, the former owner wanted to step in because he cared. The former owner was like wanted to step in because even though he sold his 2000, even though he like had sold his part of the team at that point or whatever, he still cared about the operation, bro. But Harrison had succeeded in pushing Cuban completely out of basketball operations since Patrick Dumont took over as a team's governor, and didn't want to cede any ground, bro. Dallas Mavericks fans deserve better, bro. Mavericks fans used to annoy me because I was a Trae Young fan, and the Mavericks fans would never shut up about the Luka Trae Young debate and all that stuff, but like, this just makes me sad, bro. It didn't help matters when Donćić was hit in his left calf while scrimmaging with teammates at SMU just before training camp opened. It was initially believed to be just a bruise, but after Donćić experienced significant soreness in the opening practice of camp, an MRI revealed a grade 1 strain, sources said, which the Mavericks did not mention in their injury release, so they did not mention it. Donćić sat out in the preseason and added more than a dozen pounds during his absence, sources said, frustrating and angering Harrison and others in the organization. Dude, that's such what is he supposed to? He's supposed to stay off his calf, right? Like, what do you? Okay, this is what it feels like. It feels like Nico and the Mavericks medical, like they make it about them. It's not about them. It's just not about them, dude. On November 29th, a day before the 5th and final game he sat out, a television in the media room at the Mavs practice facility was tuned into the closed circuit feed of Donćić scrimmaging with low minutes players and staffers, launching jumpers on almost every offensive possession. When a team employee noticed the feed, they changed the channel quickly, saying they were unsure how it became available. The feed has not been shown in the media room since. That's very strange. That's so strange. Barrio Calvo and Billsborough communicated regularly, but they frequently disagreed, sources said. Meetings that include Harrison, Billsborough, Seager, Barrio Calvo, and Duffy were often tense and unproductive. Donćić did not work with Belton at all. Bro, if nobody works with Belton, why is he there? That's what I want to know. No one works with Belton. Like, like, no one works with you, man. Belton's a prodigy, though, at what? The tension between the sides soured after Donćić sustained another left calf strain, his 4th in a 28-month span on Christmas Day. Lucas Camp believed he had returned too quickly from a left heel bruise he had sustained during his 45-point triple-double in a December 15th win over. So he had returned too quickly, but he still dropped 45 points in a triple-double because he was just that fucking good at the game of basketball, bro, and had been playing on his toes to avoid discomfort in his heel. So he wasn't even playing right, and Harrison was just like, oh, he has poor conditioning even though he's coming back from injury. Oh my goodness, dude, you don't know anything, dude. The sides also drastically disagreed on the timetable for Luka's return after receiving the MRI results. Billsborough believed Donćić could be back in 2 to 3 weeks. Sources said while Luka's team adamantly stated that he needed to sit out 6 weeks. They got their way, and a targeted return date was set for February 8th against the Houston Rockets. That deepened the divide. Luka didn't put any weight on his left leg for 2 weeks, using crutches and a scooter to get around. The MRI results 4 weeks later were encouraging, but the plan remained in place. Another major disagreement emerged between the sides when Donćić refused Harrison's request to join the team on a 5-game trip leading up to his target return date. Harrison griped that Donćić was holding the team hostage, sources said. Lucas Camp argued that he was better off having around-the-clock access to the Mavericks practice facility than traveling with the team. It pointed out that Donćić was doing 2-a-day, multi-hour basketball workouts, which wouldn't be possible with court time difficult to book on the road. Yeah, that checks out. Makes sense to me. Yeah, it makes sense to me, y'all. I don't know what like it. Yeah. How dare he want access to professional facilities? Like, huh? He could also utilize the weight room and high-tech medical equipment as convenience, which isn't the case in other teams' arenas and hotels. Yeah, what a surprise. But the trainer that's rarely around doesn't know that. Harrison countered, insisting that Donćić need to scrimmage. Lucas Camp, in response, said he'd be happy to practice with the G League Texas Legends in Frisco, a Dallas suburb. The next time Lucas Camp heard from Harrison, it was to share the news that the trade that he had been secretly negotiating for weeks with the Lakers was finalized. And that's how the article ends. Oh my God. Oh my goodness, man. I am absolutely stunned. That is unbelievable. That is just, wow. That's how the article ends. That's it. That is one of the, I love a good exit. I love a good exit interview. I love a good why all this stuff went wrong interview. I love that. It's one of my favorite things to just like read and be like, yeah, that you messed up there, buddy. But this just made me sad. Like, I remember when the Detroit Lions fired Matt Patricia, and I read that article about how they made mimosas in the locker room because they were so glad that he was gone. This has none of that. This has none of that. Anyway, oh my goodness, unbelievable. Feel free to support me on Nebula. That is where you can get my YouTube videos ad-free and also get access to a lot of other great creators. Yeah, thank you guys for being able to support me all this time, and I will see you guys later. Have a good one, y'all. Bye!